your usual suspects. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Saturday night. Actually, it could pass for Sunday because it's 2 minutes past midnight. That's 1 hour after we should have been here. Well, that's for, like I often say, matters beyond our own control. I never intentionally come on here late, so please indulge me. Apologies for missing our morning broadcast because, again, that was due to matters beyond my own control. Powers off. It's been a rainy and very cold day down in Kampala, so that came with power being off. So with power being off, obviously, we could not make it for our broadcast. Perhaps one would say we would have tried other means. Yes, that was a possibility. But usually when power is off, usually that means my Wi-Fi is down and I cannot get through to you guys. What I do hope, and this is for the future and for the longer term, is to get a UPS. That's uninterrupted power supply, so that in the events that power is off, we can still soldier on at least for 30 minutes, at least for 1 hour, depending on its strength. But those are all plans for the future. So at the moment, we have to deal with now. Anyways, it's good to be back. Tonight, we'll be looking at Madrid's. Yes, getting beaten by 2-1 at the hands of an electric or scintillating Osasuna. Osasuna were brilliant in that game. As we speak, Atletico de Madrid are 1-1 against Espanyol. That's at the Riyadh Air Stadium over there in Spain. And then Manchester City are leading by 2-1 against Newcastle. Those games are into halftime. Goes from Alexander Soroth scored the equalizer, I think, for Atletico de Madrid after Carreras had scored to give Espanyol the lead. And then for Manchester City, it was Nico O'Reilly who scored to, break the deadlock. That was quite very early on in the game. And then Lewis Hall scored to restore parity before a brilliant header from, again, Nico O'Reilly, who could have easily gone out of the first half with a hat-trick, but he had a very golden missed opportunity in a very scintillating first half for Manchester City. So really, that is what is happening so far. And for those of you that are just joining us, I say welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is my name. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if it's your first time here. Speaking of subscribing to the channel, I wish to say thank you to all our new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining the community. I hope you get to enjoy your stay with us. Timari says hi. Why are you joining us from Timari? Please consider liking the broadcast, but also subscribing to the channel if it's your first time here. You say, I'm new here. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening. Where are you joining us from? I'm joining you right from Kampala, Uganda, where it's 5 minutes past midnight. So that means for us, we've crossed over into Sunday. And for majority of you, it is still Saturday. I know for a fact we are 2 hours ahead of most countries in Europe and 3 hours ahead of the UK. With Turkey, we are around the same time zone. For our friends in India and Pakistan, you are 2 hours ahead of us, so that means it's around 2 a.m. for you guys, but I hope you're okay. Donna Shaw says, other, okay. Tuwori says, a dog. Do you have a dog? No, I do not have a dog. I do not know what he means by dog, whether he's asking whether I have a dog or whichever the intention for that comment is, I do not know. But thank you for joining us and thank you for being part of the broadcast. Simply let me know where you're joining us from on this beautiful, Saturday night. It's like I said, it's been a cold one, but this is a Football Tribe UG channel. Our focus is football. Our focus is sports, and like I said, football for the better part or for the majority of the part, or as the primary focus. So we'll be going through what so far is transpired through the weekend. Then, of course, how do we even go through the weekend without talking about Juventus, who are now winless in 5 games? I think losing to Galatasaray, losing to Como, a game which they lost today, when they got beat up by 2-0 by Francesco Sola Fabregas' young side. And I mean, it's not a game I watched. You say you're nice, thank you so much. It's not a game I watched, but I mean, I was a bit surprised by the result, not because Como are incapable of beating up against a team like Juventus, but because of how Juventus's poor form is going on. And then they sort of unveiled their third, is it their third or fourth kit? I don't know. It looked from a long distance. When I saw the images, I thought, oh, maybe this is like New Year's wear, sweater and something like that. But it's an actual jersey, and it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful, but when you see it for the first time, you may think it's like maybe a sweater, a sweatshirt or something like that, or long sleeved and things like that. They had their chances in the game. According to the highlights that I've watched, they had their chances, Juventus, but could not make them count. And in Como had a moment where they hit the crossbar because Michel Di Gregorio decided to, put the ball in a dangerous area, So Como winning there by a goal to nil. How old are you? I'm in my 30s, Tim. Mari, thank you so much for asking. So I thought that was a very, very crucial result for Como, given the importance of that kind of result for them in as far as the Italian Serie A table is concerned. So that action, I need to look at the Italian Serie A table, but I think they've now leapfrogged Juventus in as far as the Italian Serie A rankings are concerned. Juventus also hit the upright through a Cop Miners a free kick, and then I think, was it Jonathan David? Yes, Jonathan David missed a header at the back post. Very, very beautiful result there for Francesco Sola Fabregas's Como. So I thought, if anything, football is, I don't want to call it funny, but it's a kind of game where anything can happen. And I think it's sport in general. Anything can happen when it comes to sport in general. So that result did not help Como leapfrog Juventus, because Juventus are still ahead of them with a point, but at least it put them almost neck to neck with Como now in sixth place with just a point behind Juventus. So if Como were to finish in sixth place, which is quite very likely, or even higher. One, if they finish in sixth place, that means they will qualify for the UEFA Conference League, because if Juventus finish fifth, then they will finish. They will qualify for the UEFA Europa League, with Napoli, AC Roma, Inter Milan, and AC Milan that are leading the table, are leading with 10 points, having played a game extra compared to the teams in second, third, and fourth. That's AC Milan, Napoli, and AC Roma, having played a game more than them. They will. Those are the top four that would have qualified for the UEFA Champions League. You said no, yes. When you said no, yes, what do you mean? Mari, where are you joining us from? Kindly let me know. And I hope you're old enough to be here. I remember sometime back, I was on a broadcast here and I was chatting with somebody who said, oh, this is my mom's phone. And, and I'm like, how old are you? And I remember, did they say they were 13? I'm like, are you even allowed to be on screen? I mean, I do not know, of course, the regulations across different countries, but it can be a bit of a concern if, let's say, a young person were on the broadcast, if it is on late in the night. Nonetheless, we're a child-friendly community for as long as that child likes sport. But of course, YouTube has their restrictions when it comes to children. So, meanwhile, Atletico de Madrid seem to have squad to put themselves in the lead against Espanyol here. The second half has just resumed. In that first half, they had a missed opportunity from Anton Griezmann, but looks like, what's his name? Is it Llorente who scored to make it 2-1? on behalf of Atletico de Madrid. We are back for the second half for those two games between Atletico de Madrid and Espanyol, while Manchester City are at the Etihad Stadium against Newcastle, a team that has not won at the Etihad Stadium in their last 20 visits. So you can imagine why this for me passes for another routine victory that we are destined for Manchester City. My prediction was a 3-1 victory for Manchester City, and yes, they may pose a challenge Newcastle, but at the end of the day, Giuliano Simeone is the goal scorer who has scored to make it 2-1 for Atletico de Madrid. So for me, I believe that is going to be just a routine win for Man City as they apply the pressure on Arsenal, who dropped points, two crucial points. It almost felt like a loss in their midweek draw against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Yes, they play tomorrow, but them playing tomorrow, regardless of the result, it means they will have played a game extra or a game more than Manchester City. So tonight, it's a Man City's opportunity to sort of squeeze in, to pile on that pressure that Arsenal are already under, should they be able to get a victory in as far as tonight is concerned in their game against Newcastle. Like I said, Nico O'Reilly looked brilliant in that first half. He also had a missed opportunity, as did Brad Erling Haaland, as did Omar Mamouche. There's a chance that fell to him, but he could not complete that one. He could not see it through. So, so that's why I said Man City were quite electric. Excuse me. In as far as their first half was concerned. Lewis Hall trying to bend that ball, but couldn't put the perfect bend on it there for Newcastle. Newcastle had an injury scare to Sandro Tonali, who was featured in all 15 games for the Magpies ever since the turn of the new year. So, that's also happening over there, really. Excuse me. Like while I said anything can happen in football and perhaps in any sport, I'm not too optimistic that Newcastle will get a result out of this game. They've not looked close onto it. Yes, they've created a couple of goal scoring chances. One, I think, that fell to Anthony Gordon, but he decided to turn his back against the goal and passed it to Joe Willock, who had an attempt on goal. Then there's another moment. They thought they had scored one to restore parity through Dunban, but he had veered offside in that free kick that was floated in by Sandro Tonali in the first half. So, but overall, Manchester City, by far, miles ahead, have been the better side in that game as we speak. So, if you're there, hoping against hope, or hoping for Newcastle to conjure out something, you may have perhaps you may have backed the wrong tree when it comes to this particular fixture. Just to look through, let's have a look at some of those first half statistics, and perhaps going into the second half. This is Kadogo UGI. Say hi, Kadogo. Why are you joining us from, my brother? I hope you're doing okay. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel since it's your first time here. Where are you joining us from? What team do you support? Because Football Tribe is a football channel. So, but it's a pleasure to have you. Your name sounds a little bit Ugandan. Mari says, I'm back. Good to have you back, Mari. Good to have you back. It's always a pleasure to have you back. While this weekend we are yet to have a perfect score prediction, I must say I got majority of my predictions wrong for this weekend, but I got the draw between West Ham and FC Bournemouth. I thought it would end 1-1. It ended goalless for the two sides. But yeah, quickly. For shots on target, Man City have so far had 4 compared to Newcastle's 5. Off target, Man City have had 4, Newcastle only 1. Blocked shots, 1-1. Man City edging possession to the tune of 59% compared to Newcastle's 41%, with 5 corner kicks compared to Newcastle's 2 so far in the game. So those are some of the key statistics for that Manchester City and Newcastle game. Then earlier on, like it reads as part of our headline, as we go through the watch along for the second half for these two games between Man City and Newcastle, and then Espanyol against Atletico de Madrid. Meanwhile, the Atletico de Madrid goal, okay, sorry, I think I need to refresh my page. for that game because it doesn't look like it is reflecting the right scoreline. We're into the 54th minute of the game, and then suddenly my feed had, I don't know, had slipped behind. Anyways, so like I was saying, we watched Osasuna beat up against Real Madrid by 2-1. Osasuna had a scintillating first half. They were by far the better team. In the second half, they had to sort of fight it on, but they managed to see it through in a very, very beautiful performance from Budmia, who scored from the penalty spot to give Espanyol the lead, to give Osasuna the lead, but also he hit the base of the upright in that game. Real Madrid thought they had pulled one back when it was still 1-1 through Kylian Mbappe, but it turned out it was offside. And then I think this was in the second half, Fede Valverde with the layup, and it was Vinicius Junior at the end of it to tap it into the back of the net to restore parity. And then very late in the game, I think in stoppage time, that's when what's his name? I need to recall Raul Garcia. Yes, Raul Garcia. The way, he dribbled past the likes of Raul Garcia. Raul Asensio, not Raul Garcia. Raul Asensio was sent to the cleaners and slotted that ball in the back of the net he had a beautiful run in between the two center backs, and it looked like he had been maybe veered an inch offside, but according to VAR, he was right onside, so that goal had to be checked after the linesman had flagged it for an offside. So, but it stood, and that's how Osasuna beat up against Real Madrid by 2-1. Remember, last weekend, Barcelona lost to Girona by 2-1, while Real Madrid beat up against Real Sociedad by 4-1, and that meant that Real Madrid had moved top of the table, 2 points ahead of Barcelona. Now, Barcelona have a game this weekend to make amends for their missed chances last weekend, and perhaps they can make amends for that and restore their 1 point lead at the summit of the Spanish La Liga table. What's your name again? My name is Robert K. Sarkos. Thank you for asking. I'm coming live from Kampala, Uganda. Yes, small East African country called Uganda, landlocked, and neighbors are Kenya, Tanzania, and DRC Congo, South Sudan. Those are some of our neighboring countries. Meanwhile, Manchester City have made some changes, withdrawing Omar Mamosh for Ryan Cherki. Ryan Cherki, one of those Man City players that have looked really, really brilliant this season, in as far as their summer signings are concerned. Okay, so yeah, that's what's happening. Then in the German Bundesliga, I watched a game between Borussia Dortmund and Eintracht Frankfurt. There's a black guy, shirt 49 for RB Leipzig. He's called Ian Diomande. What a game he had. Unfortunately for RB Leipzig, they squandered a 2-0 lead to share the spoils with Borussia Dortmund in a 2-2 draw. But I thought RB Leipzig had a good game. The game felt like that of Arsenal versus Wolves, with Frankfurt being dominant, and yet somehow Borussia Dortmund managed to rescue a point out of that game. They came into that game with, I think, 9 points behind the table leaders in Bayern Munich, who had won their fixture earlier on in the day. So, because Bayern Munich beat up against Eintracht Frankfurt by 3-2 in their game earlier on. So, another beautiful game of football over the weekend. But yeah, Atletico de Madrid have scored yet again to make it 3-1. Looks like they are looking to bounce back, because I don't think they have won a game ever since beating up against Barcelona in the first leg of the Copa del Rey semi-finals by 4-0, because after that they lost to Rayo Vallecano by 3-0. Then last week, or this week in midweek, they shared the spoils in a 3-3 draw against Club Brugge in the UEFA Champions League playoffs. So they did not look comfortable one bit in that one. Newcastle are equally making changes, introducing Harvey Barnes and Jolinton there. Nick Voltmada is a player that has been withdrawn. I do not know why, but Ed Howe, I don't know if he's trying to be too smart, or that's what he's identified that Nick Voltmada is good at, but he's switched Nick Voltmada to be playing in the number 10 role behind Anthony Gordon, who is now playing as a false 9. Now, I do not know how effective that is, but one could say you can't argue against it if, Anthony Gordon scored 4 against Karabakh. Never mind that 2 of them were penalties. I thought he should have yielded at least one of those penalties to Nick Voltmada. I mean, he needs the encouragement. He needs the to get his confidence back. He needs that bit of rhythm, for a player that was bought expensively. We've already had rumors. Apologies. We've already had rumors that Newcastle would be willing to listen to offers for his signature. Meanwhile, Demola Lookman is the goal scorer for Atletico de Madrid to make it 3-1. Demola Lookman, this should be his third goal in Atletico de Madrid colors. He scored in that 3-0 draw against Club Brugge in the UEFA Champions League, and then he scored in the game against Barcelona, So he's looked really, really sharp. He's looked a timely addition for this Atletico de Madrid side who do not know how to defend anymore. Now, I understand managers changing philosophy, adapting to new trends of football, but there are some elements that if they are good to your game, you ought not to change them. You ought not to change them. I do not know why Diego Simeone's teams are no longer have grit when it comes to defending. They no longer have that fortitude. It just doesn't know. I don't know whether they're not recruiting well in terms of their defense, but they always look vulnerable to conceding. And yet, contrary, when he won his first La Liga title, when was this? You have to go back. Was it 2014? 360 or 360G Com says, how are you doing? I'm good. Good to have you on the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if it's your first time here. So, Atletico Madrid are introducing Julian Alvarez and Koke to their fold. I think it's Alexander Soloth that will be paving the way, as well as Alex Baina. Alex Baina acquired from Villarreal over the summer. Then Zamira, this is not the first time I'm seeing you here. It's good to have you back. I hope you're doing well. Zamira, hi, how are you doing? I hope you're doing okay. I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking. Yes, I've had a cold or a flu for the last couple of days, and it's not yet entirely gone, but at least I feel a bit much better. A bit much better compared to the last 2 days. But thanks for asking, So, yeah, I was still talking about Diego Simeone. I do not know. There's something that he needs to rediscover. When they were winning the Spanish La Liga, I think it was 2014. Must have been 2014. Or was it 2014 or prior to that? Because he's won 2 Spanish La Liga titles, one in 2020, possibly 2020, and then he had another. Yes, it was 2014. I remember 2014. That's the year when they also made it to the finals of the UEFA Champions League and lost out to Real Madrid by 4-1 after extra time. And then they won it again in 2021. Yes, 2021. So those are the 2 La Liga titles he's won for them. But when you go back specifically to that 2014 episode of them winning the Spanish La Liga title, the one thing that they were really, really known for, that they were a hard wall to break down. They were a hard team to crack, That defense of Juan Fran, Miranda, Felipe Luis, it was quite the fortitude, It was quite the fortitude. But nowadays, it's not the same. They are more likely to concede than they are to score. Sometimes. That's how it feels like. It's a foul. Clan Trippier, there's no way to that. There's no defense about that. Clan Trippier getting himself in the referee's book for a foul on Ryan Ash-Norrie a couple of minutes back. So looks like this one will run away from Espanyol. Now, first of all, Atletico de Madrid have been very, very inconsistent this season. Excuse me. They win one game, lose another, draw another. They've had so many draws, especially when it came to the Spanish La Liga. But them getting whipped by Rayo Vallecano by 3-0, I think that's as poor as a result that you sort of have it. You know, that's as poor as a result you'd have. And then, I mean, getting beat by Bodo Glimt on match day 8 of the UEFA Champions League did not leave Diego Simeone painted in any glory. I think more than ever, I do not know what the sort of terrain or the murmurings are amongst Atletico de Madrid fans over in Spain, and perhaps I'll put that to Pedri when he joins us. He's a friend and colleague who joins us every single day from Spain. He's a Barcelona fan, to give us sort of an insight into what the feeling or the sentiments are for Atletico de Madrid fans around Diego Simeone, because when you watch some of the, or when you read through some of the feed that comes through from the rest of the footballing world that follow the events from Atletico de Madrid, there's this sort of feeling that perhaps they've seen enough of Diego Simeone and that there's nothing new he can offer to this Atletico de Madrid side, regardless of whatever amount of resources that he may throw at his disposal. When this season was starting, part of my predictions, especially for the Spanish La Liga, were that Real Madrid will finish third and that Barcelona will reclaim their crown as La Liga champions, and then Atletico de Madrid would come second. I thought they would be Barcelona's biggest challengers to the Spanish La Liga title. I thought Xabi Alonso was going to have a tough start to his career with Real Madrid. It turned out to be much better than I had anticipated. And in any case, even his firing, I wasn't par with it. But sort of, it's Florentino Perez. He gets to do what he wants. He just didn't appreciate the fact that they lost to Barcelona in the Supercopa Hispana final. So, but those were some of my predictions. And I remember putting it to Pedri, who would finish fourth. And his ambition was, I think he put Villarreal and Real Betis in the top 5 there. And whereas the top 5 has not changed much, Real Madrid are second. In fact, going into tomorrow's game, they're now at the summit of the La Liga standings. That's hoping that they'll be hoping that Barcelona get beat or drop points. At least even if they draw, that means Real Madrid stay at the summit with a point ahead of them. So, but I did not think that Real Madrid would be the closest challengers to Barcelona this season. After what I saw of them last season, after what I saw of them at the Club World Cup, but the Spanish La Liga is really like that. The margins between the giants and the other teams is so big. It's so big. Anyways, so yeah, that was my feeling, and that is still the feeling. Okay, so just like our headline says, you're not missing much in as far as the two games are concerned. The scorelines are still 2-1 in favor of Man City against Newcastle and 3-1 in favor of Atletico de Madrid against Espanyol. So in the other games, like I was saying, Chelsea squandered another point or points. They led their game. Man City getting the third here. Oh, no, not at the moment. Chelsea took the lead through Joao Pedro, with Pedro Neto providing the assist in that game. But a late header from Burnley saw them drop 2 crucial points. And that header, and by the way, Burnley could have won it still late on with another brilliant header, but it just couldn't hit the target. They had one prior to their equalizer, just squeezed over the bar, and the result, the 1-1 all draw between Chelsea and Burnley, meant that Chelsea have only won one game against the three newly promoted sides, and that was their victory against Burnley, because they lost to Leeds United by 3-1 at Elland Road and drew the reverse fixture in a 2-all draw. They got beat by Sunderland at Stamford Bridge by 2-1 and are yet to play the return leg. So that 1-all draw between the two sides means that's the implication that Chelsea have won only one game, drawn two versus the newly promoted sides this season. Not the kind of result you'd want. But also the other key statistic is that Chelsea have now dropped 19 points from a winning position. Only one team has lost more than Chelsea, and that's West Ham, who have dropped 20 points from winning positions. So the other team that has the equivalence of Chelsea is Newcastle, who have also dropped 19 points from winning positions. Winning positions means that you have a lead and then you either draw that game or drop all 3 points. I do not know how many Arsenal have lost, but they've equally been culprit or suspect in a number of games. For example, in the game against Wolves, in the game against Brentford, in the game against Sunderland, away at the Stadium of Light. Those are some of the games. So that, because all those were draws, so you would argue that's 6 points squandered by the table leaders. We have to hint on them. Then for Man City, it's not been too much. I seem to remember their draw against Tottenham Hotspur, in which they dropped 2 points. That's in a leading position. The 2 points they dropped against Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium, they were leading by 1-0 before Gabriel Martinelli scores the equalizer. Those are the ones that I can remember off of my fingertips, really. Those are the ones that I can remember off of my fingertips, but there could be more. But the point is that Chelsea have lost, they have lost as many as 19, just like Newcastle, and West Ham have lost more. If West Ham had not lost those 20 points, they wouldn't be in this relegation battle that they are in by now. You know, they wouldn't be in it the way they are in it now. And then, meanwhile, Atletico de Madrid have scored to make it 4-1, so they are leading by 4-1 in that one. Atletico de Madrid are giving Espanyol quite the thrashing, quite the beating, so far as things stand. They are leading by 4-1 in as far as things go. Newcastle have created some scoring opportunities. You could say not have chances, but chances in a way, but they are yet to capitalize. They are yet to capitalize on that. I'm sure Arsenal fans out there will be hoping that for some reason, somehow, somewhere, Newcastle get to win this game, or even they cause Man City to drop at least 2 points. So it's Alexander Soloth with his second on the night that is squad for Atletico de Madrid. That means a brace for Alexander Soloth, a goal from Ademola Lookman, and another from Giuliano Simeone, the son to Diego Simeone there over for Atletico de Madrid, who are leading by 4-1 against Espanyol. So back to Chelsea. Chelsea got their 8th red card this season when Wesley Fofana was given matching orders for a second yellow card. Bit of a dangerous foul. I think it was against James Ward-Prowse when he stamped on his foot. He was late for the challenge. The others that have gotten red cards, you have Robert Sanchez versus Manchester United away to Old Trafford. You have Moises Caicedo versus Arsenal at Stamford Bridge. You have Liam Delap, he got one. You have, I think, Trevor Chalobah. You have Malo Gusto. You have Marco Cucurella. I don't remember the other. I think, was it Joao Pedro? I think. And then Enzo Maresca, as a manager, also got a red card. So I don't know, because usually I do not want to say that red cards are entirely about discipline, or that they're an indicator of a lack of discipline. But when they are as many as 8, then you must think about it in some way, or in one way or the other, and say something doesn't fit right. I remember a time Arsenal, I think, collected as many as 5 in a single season, and the entire world couldn't shut up about it. Now, I don't mean to say that Chelsea should be getting the rap for it, but I mean to say that perhaps it's not talked about as one would expect. And statistically, I found it quite surprising when I learned of the fact that now they've accumulated that many for 8 players so far this season. And something needs to be fixed, especially because it's not like it's defenders are getting all the red cards. So you don't want to say defenders need to get their act together. It's also the other players in midfield and up front, So perhaps the manager needs to have a discussion with them about discipline and about how to handle themselves and not to commit silly challenges that cause them to get sent off. And I do not think that there's any or many that Chelsea fans could point at and say, yeah, we were unlucky to get that one, that maybe it was a blinder and something like that, or it was soft, kind of. So really, Chelsea need to correct something. And then Aston Villa also dropped points because they had the chance to win their game and go square on points with Manchester City at 53 before Man City came into action against Newcastle. But what happened was that they shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw in their home game against Leeds United. Leeds, I think ever since the start of December, have lost, I think, 1 or 2 games? I think only about 2 games. They're just not losing too many games ever since, December. Excuse me. So, and that implies that it's good signs, really. I think if we ended the season with Leeds getting relegated, it would have been too harsh on them, even though I said everywhere you go, the league table is always an indicator of your own performances throughout the campaign. I don't think it would be indicative of the kind of performances that they've had, especially over these sort of last 2.5 months thereabout. They've looked really, really good. They've not given away too much. In other words, they just do not lose that many games. They draw so many games. That's a problem. But also, given their level of standard, you'd say they fight enough to not lose a game, So they shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw against Aston Villa. There was a brilliant free kick in that one for Leeds before Tammy Abraham scored the equalizer. His equalizer came around the 88th minute, while the free kick from Anton Stach came in the 31st minute that had given Leeds the lead. So really, I thought that was another brilliant result for Leeds. But Aston Villa have dropped 2 points, 2 crucial points, just like we have discussed in the wake of Chelsea's draw. Then, West Ham Bournemouth shared the spoils in a goalless draw. Like I told you, my prediction had been a 1-1 draw between the two sides, but it never manifested. It came down to a goalless draw. I wish I could say it's a valuable point for West Ham, but I can't. Why? Because whereas the point in itself is valuable to a certain extent, the game was at home. It was against Bournemouth. They would have been there for a taking. I remember, I think it was Somerville. Somerville missed a golden opportunity to give his side the lead. And even they themselves let themselves a little bit down on the other side, because I thought you had a moment, I think it was Ryan, that went through and could have scored, but his opportunity went just over the bar. So that's the 19-year-old Brazilian. So that was there as well. Then the surprise weekend result for me, particularly as far as the Premier League is concerned, came when Brighton beat up against Brentford by 2-0. I thought, or at least my prediction was, that Brentford would win the fixture by 3-2. Now, Diego Gomez and Danny Welbeck were the goal scorers in the 30th minute and the first minute of stoppage time of the first half. And particularly for me, Ryan Ashnory, will you kick a game of football again for Pep Guardiola if you're squandering such chances if you're failing to play in the team's top scorer in what Erling Haaland, you know, ran at Nori with a brilliant run, but he could not get he could not play in Brad Erling Haaland, which I thought he should have. Really. All he needed was to cross that ball into the path of Brad Erling Haaland, and Newcastle would have been done, really. Meanwhile, Atletico de Madrid have conceded the second of the night. It's 4-2 against Espanyol. Oh, Pep Guardiola couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe his eyes. He thought that was the biggest opportunity they've had in the second half to put this game to bed. Atnori passes that ball to Brad Erling Haaland. They put that game to bed. Rest assured, they put that game to bed, you know. So, but also we've seen Man City win it the hard way at the Etihad this season. Remember, there was a 3-2 victory for them against Leeds United. Was it? Yeah, it was against Leeds. You know, they had a 2-0 lead. Then Leeds came back into that game, and then Man City scored a late goal to, you know, to win it 3-2. So there've been some of those sort of close moments where they could have dropped points, but they fought on. The question is, can Newcastle fight on tonight? That will be the big question. It looks unlikely. It looks unlikely that Newcastle will fight on, but I think Man City will get the win. Anyways, so for me, Brentford getting beat by Brighton was a bit of a surprise result for me, I must be honest. And not so much of a surprise that it is impossible, unbelievable, but because of the kind of form that Brentford came into that fixture with. One, they had shared the spoils with Arsenal in a 1-1 draw in a game that they could have probably won. They had beaten up against Aston Villa away at Villa Park with a manless, and that goal scored by Dango Ouattara. I think it was Kevin Shada was given a red card in that one. They had gone to Newcastle and beaten up against Newcastle by 3-2. So really, they were looking in great shape or in brilliant form. And for them to go on and lose at the GTEC Stadium, where prior to today's game, they had only lost 2 fixtures at home. That was 2-0 against Nottingham Forest and a 2-0 against Manchester City. Really, I had not envisioned that they were going to, you know, be at the losing end of that fixture in the manner in which they did. It's not a game I watched, but, you know, it tells you everything also perhaps you need to know about the Premier League, that it's not over until it's over, and anybody can beat up against anybody. Like I said, football is the kind of sport that trumps logic. Why? Because while you may have a very dominant side on one hand and who passes to be a weaker opponent on the other hand, is that at the end of the game, if it's football at the end of the 90 minutes, or if it's basketball at the end of 45 minutes? Or is it 45? No, 60 minutes? Is it? I don't remember properly. There'll be one winner, and usually the winner, okay, of course, the winner can be the weaker opponent on a given day, you know. We've seen that. We've seen that happen. So it is what it is. Somebody once said that sport is the equalizer in society. I think it was Charles Mbide, the Ugandan shareholder in MTN Uganda, Charles Mbide. So, that's dished out quite quickly. Somebody getting booked, Ngonge getting booked for Espanyol there in that game against Atletico de Madrid. Now, for as long as Man City do not find the third goal in this game, I think Pep Guardiola will not have his heart settled. Until they get that third goal. It will always feel a bit nervous because he knows he knows that what happened to Arsenal in midweek can easily happen to them. That you can have a lead and then it slips out of your hands, because when you have a 1-0 lead, that's the equivalent of the skin of a rat. In other words, it can tear away at any given point. Perhaps the size, the layer of a white caviar, and I wish I had one on my table to demonstrate to you, but maybe I can use my serviette here, that sometimes I need to put this properly for purposes of demonstration. You see how thin this is? This layer of a serviette is, that is what it feels like, that a 1-0 lead in football can feel as thin as the layer of a serviette. So he knows one too well that anytime you can lose it, and he wouldn't want to lose it. He wouldn't want to lose it, because if he loses it, really they still close the gap on Arsenal. It will still feel like two major drop points, and that will be it. So he'll know more than anything else, more than anybody else, that will be the implication of that. Jolinton can't believe that he's considered a foul against Brian Chucky. Sometimes I do wonder, I do ask myself, where's that physical, messy dual fight in Newcastle when they come up against Man City? Where is it? We do not see it quite often. And yet, I think I've seen it when they're up against Chelsea, seen it when they're up against Arsenal, I remember, yes, in that 3-2 victory, I think it was Phil Foden who scored the winning goal. And just remembered when he's being brought on here to help Man City perhaps see out the remainder of this game, to see out the remainder of this game. And meanwhile, in the other results are from the Spanish La Liga, Real Sociedad and Real Oviedo shared the spoils in a 3-3 draw. Real Vallecano and Real Betis settled for a 1-1 draw, while Madrid, like I told you, lost to Osasuna by 2-1. Atletico de Madrid are 4-2 up against Espanyol. In the German Bundesliga, Bayern Munich beat up against Eintracht Frankfurt by 3-2. In that one, let me see. Yes, Alexander Pavlovich, Hurricane with the brace, were the goal scorers for Bayern Munich, while Bacardi and Calmuendo were the goal scorers for Eintracht Frankfurt. Meanwhile, Calmuendo is on loan to Frankfurt from Nottingham Forest. He was the German Bundesliga player of the month for the month of January. And we're talking about a player who could not find his footing as far as Nottingham Forest was concerned, that because they bought him for about £26 million from Stade Rennes over in the summer, and yet they decided to loan him out already, that he couldn't cut it. Even though Arsene Wenger said, only judge a player after 6 months, sometimes if you're not getting sufficient playing time, it can feel insufficient. Jellington is just gotten himself into the referee's booklet, and he reminded him of how many fouls he so far committed, or the incidents he's been involved in. I don't think I've seen a more rough Brazilian, really. Maybe I've not watched enough Brazilians, but he's quite the riff-raff of a Brazilian. Not even Ramirez was that hard, was that rough. Not him, really. Anyways, let's wait and see. So yeah, then Cologne shared the spoils in a 2-2 draw against Hoffenheim. Bayer Leverkusen lost to Union Berlin in a 1-0 defeat, while Augsburg beat up against Wolfsburg by 3-2. And then in their late kickoff, RB Leipzig and Borussia Dortmund shared the spoils in a 2-2 draw. In the Italian Serie A, Lazio and Cagliari settled for a goalless draw, while Inter Milan beat up against Lecce by 2-0, and then Como, like I said, beat up against Juventus by 2 goals 2-0 there. So those are the results from those games. Meanwhile, as we speak, Paris Saint-Germain are 3-0 up against Betis, while Toulouse and Paris FC share the spoils in a 1-all draw, while AC Monaco beat up against RC Lens by 3-2. So that is the other result from the French League One. So for those of you that needed a rundown of the major, results from elsewhere around Europe, that was it. That was it. Oh, Man City looking for that third goal. It's still eluding them, but I kind of sort of feel that if it were to come, if there's any extra goal in this game, it's going to come from Man City than it would come from Newcastle. Newcastle have not created enough chances in the second half, even though one would argue that Man City have not been at the top of their game for the second half. Newcastle have not done much better themselves to say we want a second goal in this game. At least not so far where we've reached. Only 4 minutes were added for stoppage time. So we are already into the final minutes, almost, of that one. And brilliant save from Nick Pope to deny Brad Erling Haaland, and then a save again to deny Phil Foden. Wow. Earlier on, that was brilliant. That was brilliant from Nick Pope. 2 saves to deny Brad Erling Haaland and another to deny Phil Foden. But Erling Haaland provided the assist for Nico O'Reilly's second goal. Talking about a player who scored the other weekend, sorry, not last weekend, but in their game against Fulham. Yes, in their 3-0 victory against Fulham, he scored, Nico O'Reilly. I think it's almost game over. We're almost there. And Man City are walking away with 3 points. And then it will be over to you, Arsenal, to get the job done against Tottenham Hotspur tomorrow. Meanwhile, like I said, now Man City literally have it in their hands. They have their destiny in their hands. They know that out of the 13 games, including this one, they just need to win. No. Is it? Yes. They just need to win their remaining 12 games, and they just need to win 12 of the 13 games, and it will be theirs. Because out of those games include a game against Arsenal itself on April 18th at the Etihad Stadium. So okay. And how acting, I don't know. I don't think anybody's surprised by Newcastle losing losing away at the Etihad Stadium. No one would be. Not really. Harvey Barnes tried to go from distance to test Gianluigi Donnarumma, but did he take a deflection, or did Donnarumma take? It's finished. Man City 2, Newcastle 1. Game over. even though Nick Pope had come in for the corner kick to try and see if they can salvage a point, but Gianluigi Donnarumma was alive to the save, to make the save, and so it finished 2-1 in favor of Manchester City. Beautiful game of football, dominant performance. They got the job done in the second half, and that's all that counted. So with 11 games left to play for both sides, Arsenal still have that thin 2-0 lead. And Man City, if let's say they were all to go ahead and let's say if they were all to go ahead and win their 10 out of their 11 remaining games, that would mean that Man City would need to beat Arsenal to win the Premier League title, or Arsenal would need to stop Man City from beating them to win the Premier League title. So basically, that's the writing is on the wall. But those two results simply mean that the two table leaders in Arsenal and Man City have extended their point gaps. On the third place, Aston Villa with 51 points, and Chelsea were fourth with 45 points, level with Man United. Man United play on Monday against Everton. That's when they return to action, the Red Devils. They'll be up against a ninth placed Everton, who, unfortunately for them, if they were to win Everton, that's on Monday, they could have an opportunity to move 8th on 40 points. Sorry, no, they couldn't. Yeah. They could move 7th. No, they could move 8th with 40 points because goal difference, they have a -1. Whereas in 8th, in 7th place is Brentford with a +3 at 40 points, unless they can beat Man United maybe by 5-0. That's the only way they would be able to be in 7th place. But yeah, regardless, they'll be looking to see if they can complete a league double against Manchester United, because they already beat them in the first leg by 0-0. So we are waiting. I think Everton's season was sort of, in a way, partly ruined with the foot injury of Jack Grealish, who needed surgery, and I think his season is as good as done, just like it probably is for Arsenal's Mikel Merino, just probably the way it is for Wilson Odegaard at Tottenham. Eddie Jonah says, hello to you too. How are you doing? Welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. It's a pleasure to have you around. Where are you joining us from? So yeah, those are the sort of results. I'm all right, just dealing with the flu or a cold, as you guys prefer to call it. But I'm fairly okay. We'll put it at that. Okay. So yeah, Arsenal have quite a task ahead of themselves. Remember, they come in action tomorrow on Super Sunday in the North London derby away to Tottenham Hotspurs, who are under an interim manager in Ugo Tudo. But prior to their game that comes at 7:30 p.m., there will be games between Sunderland and Fulham. There will be a game between Nottingham Forest and Liverpool, as well as Crystal Palace against Wolverhampton Wanderers, all kicking off at 5 p.m. East African time. So do not miss out on that in any case. Then that's in as far as the Premier League match day 27 is concerned. Trying to see if we can get a recap of the other fixtures that will be coming your way from elsewhere. But my internet seems to have taken a French leave. Let me see if we can get them. Yes, tomorrow in Spain, Getafe will be at home against Sevilla. Barcelona at 6:15 p.m. will be at home against Levante. Celta Vigo take on Mallorca. while Villarreal will take on Valencia in the late kickoff. Freiburg in the German Bundesliga will be at home against Borussia Mönchengladbach. St. Pauli will take on Werder Bremen, while Heidenheim will take on VfB Stuttgart. In the Italian Serie A, Genoa take on Torino. Atlanta will be at home against Napoli. AC Milan will be up against Parma, while AC Roma will take on Cremonese. And then in the French League One, Auxerre will be up against the Rennes. Angers will take on Lille. Nantes will be up against Le Havre, while Nice will take on Lorient, and Strasbourg will be up against Olympique Lyon. So that's what's to come for you on your menu in as far as Super Sunday is concerned across the major 5 leagues in Europe. Otherwise, allow me wrap it up here. Thank you so much, Eddie Chora. Thank you so much, Zamari. Thank you so much, 360, G.com, Mari, then Tori. Thank you so much, Donna Shaw. Thank you so much, and every single one of you that has been part of tonight's podcast. It's been a pleasure having you around. I hope you've subscribed to the channel if it was your first time here, and I wish to say thank you to all those that have watched our content in recent times. We put out 2 videos the other time, and in which we talked about Uganda's readiness, what they need to do to be ready to host AFCON. Thank you so much to all those that have watched that episode. It was in 2 parts when we hosted Ismail Dakabachi Gongo, while in the other part we get to talk about Manchester United and Arsenal, whether they can stand the pressure of pursuing a Premier League title. So keep watching. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section, and we'll continue to engage. Otherwise, you may as well allow me wish you a blessed night, and let's do this again tomorrow. Remember, on Sundays we do not have morning broadcasts, so all our Sunday broadcast comes at 11 p.m. East African time in the night. If we are late, please bear with me. Please bear with me. It's oftentimes due to circumstances beyond my own control. And I wish to say thank you to all those that do bear with me and keep around, even though I may come a bit late. So thank you so much for the show of kindness, for keeping up with me. Otherwise, have a blessed night and a blessed Sunday. Let's catch up again tomorrow night for those games. Bye-bye for now.